Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new video. At the moment my phone is currently dead, so I cannot record my video in my usual fashion, so I'm going to be doing it like this. There are a lot of blank spaces and missing pieces in my room. This is all stuff that I've moved over to Brighton, so bear in mind with that. But I remember making this exact video last year, albums that got me through 2020. And at that point I wasn't even past 1,000 subscribers, and it's so weird to think how far I've come with this YouTube channel, that I'm sitting here with nearly 15,000 subscribers and a very loyal and loving fan base, which is you guys. So as I said, this is going to be the albums that got me through 2021, and 2021 was a very strange year because with the pandemic at the beginning, like really raging again, and then it kind of smooths itself out a bit, and now we're back to where we were before with this new variant, and yeah, it's all very intense. So yeah, I just want to also just say thank you to everyone who's made this year on YouTube possible. I didn't make a video on the 26th like I said I would, but I've been so busy. I've got a lot of university deadlines coming up, and it's all getting very intense at the moment. So yeah, I thought I'd come on here and say hello, and this is probably going to be quite a long live stream because there are quite a lot of albums here, as it was in my first video about, you know, albums that got me through insert year here, which last year was albums that got me through 2020, and there were a lot in there. So yeah, there probably might be some overlaps. There might be some albums that got me through 2020 and 2021 as well. There was a lot of discovery for me this year, obviously with the YouTube channel and people suggesting some new artists for me to listen to and all of that good stuff. And yeah, I think we can just get on with it now because I've done the whole introduction, and here we go. So this isn't going to be in like order of the year. So it's not going to be from like January to December. It's just going to be albums in general. Happy New Year to everybody. Let's hope 2022 is a lot better of a year. And yeah, I'm turning 20 this year. So let's start. So the first band that I listened to a lot this year, and you know, did listen to a little bit of in 2020 as well, was Gentle Giant, and I've pulled out a few of their albums here that I'm going to show off. So I've got the self-titled, Octopus, and Three Friends. Three Friends being the main album of Gentle Giant that I was drawn to the most and listened to the most during the year. Fantastic band, great albums, and I highly recommend if you haven't listened to them already, but I do bang on about them quite a lot in my videos. It's quite funny because I think around this time last year people were actually suggesting me to listen to Gentle Giant, and here I am holding up 3 of their albums to you guys now that I've thoroughly enjoyed. So yeah, just a quick thing, I will always prefer the Roger Dean artwork of Octopus to the US cover, which is the jar with the octopus inside it. This one just is way better, in my opinion. I'm sorry about the lighting as well. As I said, I wasn't able to film on my phone, so I'm using my webcam, which is kind of crappy, but you can see the albums. So yeah, Gentle Giant were a big contributor for this year's albums of the year. If I had to pick one, as I said, it'd be Three Friends. I was very much drawn to this album. I have a very personal connection with it. And that is a video that I am thinking of doing at some point, albums that I have a very strong personal connection to and explaining why. So if you're interested in that, let me know. But that band, Gentle Giant, really did help me a lot throughout this year. Another band that helped a lot this year was Jethro Tull, and these 2 albums in particular, Aqualung and Thick as a Brick. If I had to pick one, I'd probably say Thick as a Brick. This copy I have right here is one that I got at the Reading Record Festival last year, which is the newspaper, like the old one, like the original copy. And this is another one I have a bit of a personal connection to, because this was something my dad was banging on about, you know, this album in particular, Aqualung. So it took me a long time to listen to it, but when I did, it was very much worth it. What really changed, what really snapped, I should say, in my brain with Jethro Tull was when I actually saw the Martin Barr Band play in August of last year, and they played the entirety of Aqualung, which changed my view on the album completely. I went back and re-listened to it and all that, and was really, really impressed. Because, you know, sometimes I find with when I see a band live and they play a lot of material from a certain album, I will be drawn to that album for quite a little while. So definitely Thick as a Brick, and also Aqualung. Thick as a Brick is one of my favorite albums at the moment. It still is. I listened to this for the first time at the beginning of the year, and I'm still listening to it now as much as I did then. It's very, very, very good. So those two are in there. Again, that Jethro Tull were a band that I'd listened to in 2020 and 2019 as well, but I got more into them this year. Excuse me, I am recovering from a cold as well, so if I start coughing or sound very stuffed up in this video, that is the reason. So a band that I got into this year, through you guys and my family and all of that stuff, was Uriah Heep. And these two albums in particular got me through this year. This is Demons and Wizards and Look at Yourself. This copy of Look at Yourself is, I believe, like the original one. So these two albums, very, very good. A lot of people were saying they were prog, and I would say that they have got prog aspects, but I'd put them in the same category as a band like Deep Purple, where they're not really prog, but they are very much keyboard heavy bands. They have got proggy moments of it though, but overall. So this one in particular, because this one was the one that my dad recommended to me. So good. Brilliant band. They're actually playing, I think, at some point in this year, so I'm hoping to try and catch one of those shows, along with all the other shows that I am seeing this year. I'm trying at the moment to get tickets for the this is just completely irrelevant now, the Nick Mason's Sauce Full of Secrets band. They're playing a show in Brighton, so I'm hoping to try and get tickets for that. But going back to Uriah Heep, really enjoyed these two albums, and I really enjoy their sound. I heavily recommend, especially Look at Yourself. So before I continue, you're probably going to expect to see bands like Genesis or Yes, mainly Genesis and Yes and Pink Floyd in this video. I can unfortunately tell you now that they probably will not be appearing in this video, because although I listened to those bands a lot this year and they were in my top 5 of the year, I wasn't really like heavily as into them this year as I have been. It was mainly towards the beginning of the year that I was really, really into Yes and Genesis, but I had listened to Nursery Crime a lot last year, and same with like Close to the Edge and Yes and stuff like that. And I talk about those albums and bands a lot, and I know a lot of people get really annoyed and upset when I talk about those bands now for some reason, and King Crimson is another one. People get very frustrated with me because I talk about them a lot, but my view on it all is, if I like a band, I'm going to talk about it, you know. And Genesis, Yes, and King Crimson, Rush, Pink Floyd, whatever, they might be the big names of prog. They're still bands that I really, really, really like, and I will talk about bands that I really, really like. So if you are one of those people who tend to complain about me talking about the same bands, there are reasons behind it. It's because I can't get enough of those bands. I love them to bits. Yes, maybe I should listen to new music. I am going to be doing that in 2022, but I will talk about that more towards the end of the video. It doesn't bother me so much as much as it did when people did that, but you know, it is my platform, and I will talk about what I want on my platform. If you're not interested, you don't have to stick around. But yeah, thought I'd just quickly mention that. Okay, moving slightly away from progressive rock now. I had a bit of a new wave, kind of late 70s phase towards the end of this year. And one album that I listened to a lot was Remain in Light by Talking Heads. I will talk about the late 70s stuff I was listening to later on in this stream, but I love this album a lot. I love Talking Heads. I think a few people were actually getting annoyed at me for not talking about prog at one point, and I know that my channel is Neve the Prog Nerd. However, there's only so much I can talk about when it comes to progressive rock, so I'm trying to branch out and talk about different genres of rock as well. But going back to this is a fantastic album. It's got Once in a Lifetime on it, and you know, everyone knows that one. It's also produced by Brian Eno, and it's just great. Definitely check this out if you haven't, although you probably have because they're very much well known. Beginning of the year, next album, sorry. This next one, at the beginning of the year, I was really into this band. I still am. I'm just not as talkative about them anymore, but I'm still really into them. I listened to pretty much their entire discography, but the one album that I came out of that kind of movement was Trilogy, and I'm referring to Emerson, Lake and Palmer here. For a while it was Tarkus, but if I was to sum up that whole period of time where I was into them very heavily, I would probably put this album, because this has got some of the most beautiful songwriting, beautiful lyrics, beautiful instrumentation, and just everything that you'd want in a progressive rock album. I'm not going to go on too much about this because I have said as much as I need to say about this album before. But if you haven't listened to it yet, I don't know what you're doing. So check this out. Beautiful album. I'm hoping to hear some stuff from this record in April when I see the Carl Palmer Legacy tour, which is actually a birthday present I got for my dad. Got him tickets to that show. And yeah, this is a great album, and I don't need to go on about it because you already know. Did I enjoy the Seconds Out Steve Hackett gig? I did, and I recommend anyone who has a chance to see Steve Hackett perform to do so. He's actually coming back to the UK, I think at the end of this year to tour Foxtrot, which will be very fun. I think it's Foxtrot or Selling England. I'm pretty sure it's Foxtrot. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. So, some more 70s progressive rock for you. I think my dad bought this album, and then a lot of people were talking about it in my comment sections. Camel. So this is Mirage, and I've got two here. I've also got Moon Madness, both by Camel. Really, really beautiful albums. I'm very big onto the Camel sound. I've been getting more into them again recently. I've re-listened to these two albums. When I heard they're doing a UK tour next year, in 2023, so I would like to see that. I think they're touring in June 2023, and they're doing a bunch of shows in England. So I'm gonna try and catch that. I haven't got tickets yet, but these two albums are fantastic, and I highly recommend both. Beautiful. Beautiful albums. Really got me through the year. They've got a very melancholic and just lovely sound to their music, which kind of separates them from the other big names of progressive rock. Yeah. Great albums. Beautiful. All right, so this was a band I got into after seeing them live. One of their kind of spin-off bands, and it was very good. I really enjoyed the performance. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about Wishbone Ash here. So this was the first one that got me into Wishbone Ash. This is August. This is another album that my dad banged on about for a long time, and when I finally listened to it, I was not disappointed whatsoever. And then recently, but I thought I put it in here because it was very important to me while I was kind of the second half of this recent semester of mine, was Pilgrimage. Both outstanding albums, great progressive rock classics in my opinion. I'd say this one is slightly more like hard rocky at points, but it has got very soft and proggy moments, just as this one does. But absolutely great. I am big on the Wishbone Ash train. So I saw Martin Turner's Wishbone Ash play at the New Day Festival, and he played a lot of the stuff from these two albums. He actually signed a copy of Argus for me, but that is not here in London. That is in Brighton in my flat, so I don't have that to show at the moment. All right, moving away from prog slightly. This year I've been trying to branch out my music taste a bit more. I've been re-listening to a lot of the stuff that I used to love a lot. You know, Iron Maiden, Metallica, all the older bands that I used to really like. And I thought I'd check out some electronica this year. And I just realized there's an album that I have completely forgotten to get out the shelf, which is my bad. I'll mention it now. There are a couple actually. So what I'm talking about is Kraftwerk, and in particular Autobahn and Computer World. I actually got Johan to listen to I think a couple of songs from Computer World, and they're just amazing. Just an amazing group. I think my dad was the one that showed me this one, Autobahn, and I discovered the latest stuff after that myself. Just great chill out music in my opinion, some really great songwriting obviously. It's the way that each of the tracks is structured, just so good. I'm big on Kraftwerk, and I'm happy I discovered them this year. I actually have a box set of their discography at home in Brighton, so yeah, Kraftwerk, everyone. If you're into them, let me know, because I've not met many prog fans who are also into Kraftwerk, so I know, it's a weird thing. Two great albums. So just bear with me one moment, people. I am going to just move to the left here. Is that the right? Oh my god, sorry, I'm a bit all over the place. And I'm going to retrieve some albums that I have just completely forgotten to get out. In the meantime, I don't think one of them's here. That's T. Is that it? Nope, that is Tool. I would talk about Tool, but I don't really listen to much Tool shit. No. The albums I am looking for, the other albums. Oh, you've just seen that one. I'll talk about that now then. So one of the albums I was just going to talk about is Phaedra and Rubicon by Tangerine Dream. I don't have those to hand right now because I believe those are downstairs, but I loved those albums to bits. I'm actually seeing Tangerine Dream's kind of new incarnation in the next couple of months, so excited about that. So as you just saw, I was really into Alan Parsons' project this year as well, particularly Turn of a Friendly Card. This is one that my dad showed me, and just so good. And then I later discovered and listened to Eye in the Sky, both my favorite albums of the Alan Parsons discography. Really good. Yeah, I know. I think I've talked about these quite a lot as well, so I won't bang on too much. Fantastic albums and a great producer or engineer. Okay, next one, we're going a bit more we're going a bit more interesting here. So this was sprung on me probably about midway through the year, maybe like May, June time, when I was really into progressive rock, and I was really into finding just the most experimental and out there band that I could, because I was just trying to find it. I was just intrigued. And one band name that just kept popping up all the time on a lot of my videos was Magma. And so I listened to this album. This is Udu Wudu. And it's still my favorite album of theirs. You can't really see it here. And it is still my favorite album of their discography. I just love this band. I love everything about them. Just how out there, the fact that they have their own language, and I know there's a lot of lore behind Zool and all that I'm not really as familiar with, so please bear with me. But this is a really great album, especially the side B, which is De Futura. And it's just amazing. I'm trying to track down a lot more of these Magma records. I've only got this one, and I've also got one that I got on Record Store Day. I've got a couple actually from Record Store Day. This one is stuff from the BBC in 1974. And I've also got Simples, which is another Record Store Day release. I am very much hoping to find some of their other albums, but they haven't re-released any of them, so we'll find out. It'll hopefully come during the year that I will get more of them and talk about them more often. But yeah, Magma, great band. I've not had the chance to listen to these two Record Store Day releases just yet, but I am most certainly looking forward to it. Okay, so as I said, I was not really going to talk about the kind of bigger names of prog, which I already mentioned Emerson, Lake and Palmer, but I did listen to this album a lot this year. This is A Saucer Full of Secrets by Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd are probably my second or third favorite band of all time. Number one spot is still occupied by Iron Maiden. This is a fantastic album. I was really getting into the earlier sides of Pink Floyd, and this pressing I've got here in particular, this is actually a first pressing. You're probably thinking, what the hell? How is this a first pressing? Well, it's kept in very, very good condition. And yeah, it was just kept in really good condition, and it's just a fantastic album. Set the Controls is one of my favorite Pink Floyd songs of all time, especially the version on Live at Pompeii. I think I've watched that so many times and listened to it so many times. I love the Live at Pompeii set list. I love the song choices and how they've done it, how they've adapted them and all that to the live setting. Fantastic. Great album. All right, this is another newer band for me. Well, newer as in like new to me. This is Manfred Mann's Earth Band. This is The Good Earth. I listened to this album actually quite recently, but I think it sums up the second half of 2021 for me quite well. I did not stop listening to this album for a long time. I just kind of kept it on repeat for a while. Until the point where I got tired of hearing it. Even now, I'm not really tired of hearing it. But there was a point where I was like, I should probably listen to something else. But this is a fantastic album. I think I might have spoken about it in one of my listens videos, but this is really great. I was a big fan of this. Okay, going back to the more earlier parts of 2021, I was getting more into the progressive rock world, and I was kind of discovering some stuff that I'd never really listened to, and stuff that my dad was telling me about, stuff that people on my YouTube channel were telling me about. One name that just kept coming up was Van der Graaf Generator. This album in particular, this is Porn Hearts. This and God Bluff, I'd say, are the two albums of theirs that I'm really into. But this album, I even did a review of it. If you haven't checked it out, it's really far back on my channel though. It's so good, so heart-wrenchingly emotional. It's very dark, and especially that final piece, A Plague of Lighthouse Keepers, that is just amazing. And I'm actually seeing Van der Graaf Generator this year. So excited. I think they're the first concert I'm seeing of 2022, because I'm seeing them at the end of February, I believe, here in London. So, great album. I've seen some of their old set lists. They've played, I think they played excerpts from this album. I don't think they've played full versions, but hopefully they will when I see them. So a band I got really, really into towards the end of the year. There are a couple of these now. I think the last few are like more end of the year kind of bands. Was Primus. And Primus, for me, my Primus kind of, I don't like calling it a phase, because a phase indicates that it phased out, which it didn't. My Primus movement, as I called it, was summed up mainly by this album, Frizzle Fry. And I'd listened to Primus before. I was very much familiar with them. Seas of Cheese was one of my favorite albums of, I think, 2020. And I went back and re-listened to a lot of their albums. And this one was the one that really, I don't know, I really got into this album a lot. And then I just started listening to a bunch of other Primus stuff, but this one is the one that I clung onto the most and will cling onto for a long time. It took me a long time to track down a CD copy for some reason. But the title track on here and, Too Many Poppies, Mr. Know-It-All, so many great tracks, so many great moments on this album that are great. And I'm hoping that they will come here to the UK and do a tour, maybe bring their Farewell to Kings tour over here, and that'd be great. So someone's written here, what albums do you recommend to people beginning to listen to 70s prog? I have a very good video for you. The Beginner's Guide to Progressive Rock. I believe it's still my featured video on my channel, so you can check that out. I put in a bunch of bands, albums, all that kind of stuff in that video. So, yeah, check that one out. Next one, Grateful Dead. This album in particular, Terrapin Station, was probably one of my favorite albums of this year that I was listening to. I only really kind of got into them properly towards like the middle to end of this year, because up until that point, I liked them, but I wouldn't go out of my way to listen to them. And then I started going out of my way to listening to them because I was like, oh, I find this interesting, And so therefore I picked up this album. This is actually a Vinyl Me Please exclusive one from the box set. And this is just a fantastic album. I have been listening to it a lot recently. I was listening to it on the way home the other day because I had New Year's in Brighton and I've just come back today. So I am very tired. But I was listening to this album on the way back and it just didn't disappoint. Just did not disappoint. So the last band, I'm going to talk about band / albums. I'm just going to talk about the band. They're probably the band that summed up 2021 for me. I listened to them pretty much every day for like the second half of 2021. And you may or may not know what I'm going to be talking about or who I'm going to be talking about. But they were my number one band of the year on Spotify. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, I am actually talking about The Police here. Not even a prog band, but a band that I was very, very drawn to for some reason, because I was really into their hits. So I thought I would listen to their albums. And these two in particular were the albums that I listened to the most. I love all of their albums that I've heard so far. There's only one album by The Police I've not listened to yet, and that is Synchronicity. I have not listened to that yet. I'm waiting until I finish my my deadlines, because I've set that as like a little treat, I guess, or as like something to look forward to, because as I said, I've got a bunch of deadlines coming up, and I thought, well, at the end of it, I will finally get around to completing my listening of the Police discography. But these two albums really summed up my year for me, especially Regatta de Blanc. I think this album I listened to this so much. I know every song on this back to front now, but Ghost in the Machine as well. Just both of them are just so good. And although they're not really a prog band, they've summed up my year very, very nicely. And as I said, they were my number one on Spotify. So 31 minutes later, and I have completed my albums of the year. Now I have to do the long and straining task of putting all my albums back into the shelf. But do let me know what your favorite albums of this year were, even if it's just albums that you listened to this year, not necessarily albums that came out this year. Thanks for everyone who's joined the stream and who's stuck around, and I will see you all in another video, probably Saturdays with Dad, now coming up next week. And yeah, thank you very much, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.